We're live. That happened quicker than I was expecting, even though we're on time. So welcome back to the Moonshot Dispatch. I'm Lee from Independent Reserve, along with Nick, our resident stable genius,
Excuse me.
and professional feather ruffler. So this is the weekly podcast with capturing all the blockchain and crypto news and some controversial opinions to boot. So we're broadcasting, just for information, we're broadcasting on a number of different platforms. What have we got now, Jared? I think we're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. No, wait, Instagram, no. We just worked out it's not working today. TikTok and LinkedIn. So definitely drop us a like, throw us some comments. It's very much appreciated and helps us get some more views out there. Okay, so we have to make sure that we mention it because we haven't mentioned it in previous weeks. That even though everyone here is watching is a responsible adult and responsible for their own decisions, just reminding that we're not providing financial advice. We're just enthusiasts.
We have no idea what we're talking about.
But we are very enthusiastic.
It's fun to chat about where the price goes, but don't make any trading decisions based on this.
Our opinions are wild and mostly based on astrology for men.
That's
All
right.
right. So market overview. So it's been a great week. It's flown a little bit under the radar as crypto has been recently.
I mean, if you really like, it's kind of, we've had a big dip recently, to be honest. You know, we went up to the highs of 112,000 or something, and then we bottomed out at about 103.
Yeah, but I was talking about the vibes.
Oh, the vibes have been good.
The vibes have been good. With everything that's going on, so what's happening in the world at the moment? President Trump's tariff wars raging on. They're on, then the court says they're not on, then apparently they're back on. So I'm not sure which state we're on at the moment.
I find this is quite interesting. So the way, and I suppose I didn't really look into this too deeply previously, but the way he's been handling all of these tariffs and these announcements about how he's going to make these sweeping changes is through emergency powers granted to him through this act. It's called the International, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. So it's not like he actually has the permissional authority to do these tariffs, which I never actually realized. I assumed he could kind of do what he wants because that's his MO.
No, he's been using a loophole.
Yeah, so he's been claiming a couple of different emergencies that are pretty tenuous, I would say. So one of them is that there's a trade imbalance in the world. He's like, this is an emergency.
Right.
And everyone's like, what? No, it's not. This is just how it works. But anyway, so he's claiming that's an emergency and that's why he can do it. And he's also claiming, I'm not sure if you heard about this, the fentanyl emergency.
Oh,
he's saying, Canada, imports from Canada, Mexico, somewhere else. There's this raging fentanyl trafficking problem.
Fentanyl one's pretty wild though. That's the one you see on the clips of where the people are kind of like bent over like zombies, but they're still alive. But like, look,
fentanyl's bad news. Don't get me wrong.
But fentanyl's bad news. Yeah. If that's not a crisis, then what is?
Well, because the problem is the tariffs have nothing to do with stopping the fentanyl issue. So fentanyl's a problem. It's a problem.
I see.
It's everywhere. But he's going, if we enact these, sweeping tariffs on Mexico and Canada, and a third country which I can't remember for some reason, this is going to be good news for this fentanyl problem, and it's really not because all the data says that the fentanyl's coming in just in like local couriers and personal mail-outs and stuff. So there's nothing that gets hit by customs tax anyway. So it's going to have no effect. Gotcha. But just the fact that he's just claiming emergencies and so basically the court's come in and said, look, not only are these not emergencies, but you don't actually have the power to do this. These emergency act is for various targeted specific responses to emergencies. You can't just go and put tariffs on every country in the world and claim it. Anyway, to no one's surprise, Trump's like, we'll sort this out in a week and we'll continue with the tariffs. So it doesn't seem to bother him. But, he's full of bravado, as he always is. You don't know if he's actually taking it seriously or if he honestly believes that this is a no-brainer for him.
Yeah, right. So there's the Trump war, which is the Trump tariff war, which is kind of on again, off again. But there's also the real war, I guess, between Russia and Ukraine, which continues to drag on sentiment. But all that said, the Australian Financial Review is reporting that local investors in Australia have been, I guess, potentially viewing Bitcoin and crypto assets as a bit of a hedge against all this, turmoil, and the inflows into ETFs around 87.3 million into Australian Bitcoin ETFs last month, which far exceeded the 1.5 billion into gold ETFs. Another positive news.
1.5 million into gold.
Sorry, yes. Sorry, got too excited and spoke too quickly. I often do that. But another good news, FTX has just distributed more than 7.7 billion to creditors, which that's great news. So yeah, that's great. And also the crypto fear and index, other highlights, at 64. Again, I don't know what everyone always talks about this fear and greed index, but it's just a number to me.
It's a sentiment.
Like where are we maxing out? Where are we redlining on
0 to 100.
0 to 100.
So, yeah. But no, I think it's good. So, I mean, if you remember last week, we spoke about the difference between the US ETF intakes versus other countries' intakes into these Bitcoin funds. And I think like the next, after the US, which was in the billions, the next biggest was Germany, I think, with 40 million or something. And Australia in US terms has now taken in 50 or 60 million. So that's pretty cool. I mean, maybe Germany's now taken in 300, I don't know. But the fact that, that's a big number for Australia, a small little country like Australia. And we'll return to this topic soon, actually. There's more good news in Australia.
More good news in Australia.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. All right, well, let's jump into the headlines this week because that's what we do, read headlines and discuss them. The ETH, the first one, actually, you told me not to ask that one about the ETH flows versus Bitcoin and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So let's get on that one a bit later. But look, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about that there's a property development company in France that was going to hold their treasuries in...
Meta Planet, I think. Was it? Oh, no, that's the Japanese one.
They're Bitcoin.
Yeah.
The French property development company that was going to hold the ETH treasury. Now it looks like Sharplink's also doing the same thing. So they've raised $1 billion to buy ETH. They're a gaming company and will buy ETH as a treasury service. And they are being supported by Consensus, Pantera, Galaxy, and others.
Yeah.
So far they've already raised 425 million. So they're having a proper bet.
Yeah. So this is like the backers for this one are pretty big deals in the crypto industry anyway. There's obviously a lot of people out there who think this is going to do well. It's sort of interesting to me that these companies like Consensus, which makes the MetaMask wallet, so they're obviously heavily involved in the industry. Like it is they are part of the industry from head to toe. That they would then go out and invest in a Ethereum vehicle company like this because surely they've got enough ETH already. But obviously they're making some kind of leverage play here on top of just it's good for the industry to show investment in these kind of things. There's a lot of other reasons why they would do it, but what I really want to see is companies that have nothing to do with crypto going this is how we get this is how we do it. And I guess you'd see a lot of that in the strategy, people investing in MicroStrategy or strategy. Yep. I still can't say strategy. It's just too generic.
Too generic.
We just have to call it MicroStrategy. Yeah. Because and people could confuse me for talking about a strategy about something. It's too similar. I don't like it. But anyway, I will continue saying MicroStrategy and strategy every time to make sure that people understand. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's great news.
Why would a sports betting agency be doing this?
Why would a software company like Strategy?
No, sorry. Let me. Correct. Why would they be buying ETH? Do you think,
as opposed to Bitcoin? Yeah, it's a good question. I think you sort of nailed it before, where there was that other French company who's planning on doing it. These guys want to do it. Everyone wants to be first because that usually you see a big uptick there. That obviously it's great for their share price if it all works out. I think their share price rose over 1,000% or something on the announcement. So it's so far so good. On top of the fact, you've got to consider with the Bitcoin, with the idea with Bitcoin, you don't get any yields with it. Whereas with Ethereum, you can stake it and you're 4 to 6% a year or whatever. Yep. And that sort of, just helps grease the wheels of progress. I guess, if you're going to play devil's advocate, then you've got to consider, okay, how do I think about the yield in Ethereum? Is it a bonus on top of my capital asset holding, or if you don't stake it, are you actually losing 4 to 6% a year? You know what I mean? Like you can kind of think of it either way. It just depends on, whether the asset is whether the asset is deflationary or not when it comes down to it. So if the asset's deflationary, then I suppose it's a bonus. And if it's non-deflationary, so it's inflationary or not, then you're kind of losing out because you're minting. I'm going too deep in the weeds here, but it really is sort of, it depends on how you think about it. But I think that's definitely an advantage because you can't do that at all on Bitcoin. So, with the yield, it's a compelling kind of tool for these guys to market.
Yeah, and look, we're seeing this more now, which leads into our next story, which is coming to us from CoinDesk, which is talking about the Treasury race, for Bitcoin treasuries. So we're seeing this a lot more. In fact, we've got a local example we can talk about as well. So after, for example, the first one, after initially denying it, Trump Media came out and raised $2.44 billion to buy Bitcoin.
Which is like almost double what the rumors were saying. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's just so in vogue with that guy, right? Like
It's pretty
you
big.
can't believe anything he says or anything he's, things at arm's length to him.
Still, that's raised
it's
$2.44
huge.
billion.
Yeah.
Right? It's funny because whenever you put this in perspective, you've been in crypto for a long time, much longer than me, but in 2021 or whatever is sort of the peak of the last bull market. Could you imagine that there would be a sitting president whose private business was going to raise effectively $2.5 billion to buy Bitcoin?
Yeah.
It seemed otherworldly and ridiculous to even suggest it, but here we are.
And there's so many companies and nation state. Like we'll talk about this later, but it's incredibly bullish time right now.
Yeah. So other buys this week being reported: Tether, they've been a buyer for a while. Rayta Logtech and 21 Capital and Strategy, which we of course already know. But the local example is someone who we know is Locate Technologies, becoming the first ASX listed company to allocate to BTC.
Yeah, which is awesome. These are kind of like it's sort of start slowly and then all at once kind of scenario, and it was inevitable that someone in Australia would do it. I'm glad they're a company that we actually know quite well. So it's good synergies there.
Do you think this is becoming a little bit in vogue, and a Bitcoin treasury is becoming a bit of a status symbol?
I guess you could see it like that. Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, really, no one's going to be doing this just on a whim, right?
No.
Any kind of investment, like where you're changing your company direction, you're going to have to convince the directors, the shareholders. You're gonna unless you are the only director and own 100% of the shares, it's not. There's an uphill battle. Like you got to educate people and do all this stuff. And I know this is exactly what the Locate Technologies guys had to do. They had to do a lot of education to sort of show people what they already knew. And I mean, this is kind of what Independent Reserve has done from the start, right? Where we're trying to educate people to
from
understand
the ground up,
why we're so passionate about this industry. There's so much going for it. And so they've just got to, not only educate these other decision makers in the company, but get them passionate enough about it to actually put their money where their mouth is. It's not just about going, oh, that's an interesting idea, I like it, to actually going, you know what,
let's
we're moving
go
our
do
money
this.
into this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's just incredible. And we know because we spoke to Steve Orenstein from Locate Technologies, and he went through that process and talked about how he kind of actually had to full orange pill a lot of his, the people who are influential and investors and the board and all these type of people to say, no, you understand that like this Bitcoin thing could be, it's important for not just for our company, but the whole world, and we're ready to bake it.
I guess it's
Or
probably
bake it. Did I just say bake it? That doesn't make any sense.
ready to let it cook.
Let it cook.
Yeah, it's important to it's important to I guess understand as well that this isn't, and specifically isn't, something that's in vogue. It's not just
it's not
the cool thing at the time. There's good reason, proper reasoning behind this, and
correct.
Yeah, as you say, a long term view on the industry. Otherwise, you'd be crazy to do it. But
it's an important strategic decision for the next however many decades.
Is that a callback to strategy?
Was that
make sense?
strategy?
What a good strategy they've got.
Well, this is the problem we have. Was I just talking about strategy, or was I referring to business? I don't know.
Too hard.
Michael Saylor, just clarify for us, please. Next one, we'll move on. So Decrypt is reporting. So SEC has confirmed that staking does not constitute a securities transaction. So this is good news, obviously, for clarity, again, I guess regular clarity around what that means and who can offer it and how it can be offered and a lot of that kind of stuff. But for the ETFs that have been filed, for the staking ETFs, I guess there's still some uncertainty as to what it means for them, because they'll probably still need to go through some legal wranglings to get it all up. But otherwise, but still, it requires a little more certainty than we've seen before around what staking is and what it can be for its users.
This is an interesting one. I think we talk about this again later. Let me just check. Can't remember. But basically, because of this ruling, there's now been a couple of companies that have decided to launch a ETH staking, and Solana as well, staking ETF, but not through the standard sort of vehicle, which is called the 19B-4 form. So the 19B-4 is how all the other, like the BlackRock ETFs and all the other ones that we know and love, the spot ETFs operate. Takes weeks and weeks, if not months, maybe even years to get these things organised because there's a lot of discussion that's happened around and all that kind of stuff. But because staking has specifically been carved out as not a security, these guys have now figured out they can actually do this other fancy way where they create a company in the Caymans, and then the company is what gets invested in, not Ethereum itself, and all of the other stuff gets paid. Anyway, it's complicated, but because it's not a security, they can kind of do it this way, whereas you can't do it with the spot ETFs.
Yep.
And so I don't know how long that's going to last. It seems like a loophole to me that is going to get filled, because in the end, they're still holding the base. They're still holding Ethereum. And it seems crazy to me that if you hold Ethereum without staking, then you have to go through this huge process. But if you stake as well as hold, then it's easy.
Yeah, correct.
I mean? So
yeah. It's
anyway, it seems like a loophole. Well, it kind of is a loophole, I suppose. Will it get filled? Maybe. I don't know. SEC seem to be really wanting to just be friendly to everyone at the moment, so maybe they'll let it ride and maybe grandfather some people in. I don't know how it works exactly, but... Yeah, it's good news. I mean, staking is not a security. Cool. That's, to the moon.
To the moon. You know what? So ETH has outperformed. The ETH ETFs actually outperformed Bitcoin. ETH has been on a bit of a tear for the last 4 weeks, which, exactly. I was going to say a lot of people who have been going, well, there's this and that, and I've looked at some lines and some charts, but all I know is that you talked about the Pectra upgrade and then it started going up.
Yeah.
There are no coincidences out in life, Nick.
What can I say?
Yeah,
it's the facts.
Don't jinx it. So look, your Nick speaks. The markets listen. ETH ETFs pulling in this week 280 odd million, while Bitcoin ETFs actually saw an outflow. You got to be careful with your comments in the future because you want to kind of get them both going up, I guess. But ETH saw 400 million in May alone, which is its best month since December. But Bitcoin, of course, overall still dominating. Yeah,
Bitcoin's taken in billions and billions, and Ethereum has never sort of tapped that kind of level. But it's I think it's pretty obvious. It's just the price action. Ethereum's pumped by like 40% or something over the last month. It's really big numbers. The ETH BTC chart is looking good. The Sol ETH chart is looking bad, which is good for ETH. And so everyone's kind of just, it makes perfect sense that people are getting interested again and throwing some money at ETFs.
The lines on the page are looking good. They're all pointing up.
Yeah, well, unless you're looking at Sol ETH, that's pointing down. That's, again, good for ETH.
All right. Okay. So continuing on this theme of just, I guess, general adoption. So the Bitcoin magazine is reporting a few things that, in fact, this is pretty good news. So global leaders warming to the idea of a Bitcoin reserve. In particular, so Pakistan is launching a Bitcoin reserve using state-held assets.
Yeah. So similar concept to how the US is doing it. They're planning on not selling Bitcoin, basically, that they already own.
4 years ago, the biggest news was El Salvador, a country barely bigger than Independent Reserve was buying Bitcoin.
I love it how they're doing their victory laps when they'd buy 0.3 of a Bitcoin or whatever. And be like, announce it to the world. Look what we just bought. And to be fair, it's not like a super rich country, obviously, and they're doing their best, but
they did it.
The numbers were kind of funny.
It was incredible that they did it. Nigel Farage in the UK has vowed to protect crypto and stop from debanking. That would be great. Imagine that in Australia. Yeah,
so he's also talking about capital gains, like reducing capital gains down to 10%, which is all. The things he's describing is just, a Bitcoiner's wet dream kind of thing. Strategic reserve, limited capital gains tax. And what was the other thing you mentioned before? Can't remember already.
Stop people from getting debanked.
The banking situation, which is a big problem.
Hey, do you think is this Nigel Farage taking just a page from the Donald Trump playbook of pandering to the crypto bros? Or is it a genuine going to go? No, this is an element of society now that we kind of genuinely must enshrine and protect.
That's a good question. Last time I spoke to Nigel Farage was never. So, I don't know.
He bought Ethereum after you said to buy it.
Yeah, probably. The only thing I could say to that is that he stands to potentially be elected in 2029. So it's not anytime
Okay.
soon that any of this stuff
Okay, so
will
he
come
can just-
around.
okay.
It's down a few years in the future, but so you can kind of at this stage probably say whatever you want, and people will forget by the time the voting comes around. But I mean, if he keeps it up and this is part of his policy, then awesome. That's what we want.
And Poland has elected a supposedly pro-Bitcoin president, Karol Nawrocki. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong.
Probably.
Yeah, so that's,
Yeah.
is she actually...
He.
Carol, sorry.
Yeah. Carol with a K.
Carol.
No, I mean, as some of you guys might know, our CEO, Adrian Prozlod, is from Poland, so he...
I'm sure
he
you nailed that
obviously is-
prononciation correctly. It's
I'm
better
just
than any
trying to make
attempt
you
I've
feel better.
It's better than any attempt I've ever made.
Yeah, so obviously he had something to do with this, He's
The
spoken to...
funny news is the name of the person that he beat in the election,
Oh, yeah.
Donald Tusk.
No.
Donald Tusk.
That's
Donald
awesome.
Tusk? Was Donald Tusk into Bitcoin at all? Or
Was it Donald Trump with a moustache or something? It's just, he's turned up to the...
Donald Tusk? Oh, Donald Tusk.
Okay.
He does. Oh,
We're
no, he
looking
looks,
at pictures
he looks,
of him.
he looks a bit. He's a bit of a cross between Jeremy Irons and Sting.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like he is happy very often. And when he's happy, he looks evil. So I'm glad he didn't win. Yeah, Donald Tusk, wow.
Powerful
Do you think,
Como.
I wonder if he got votes just off the name.
power-
People
it's a-
thought they were voting for Trump.
It's a very strong name.
It's a cross between Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Yes.
I was there. I caught up with some a bunch of high school mates. We had a boys trip over the weekend, and everyone's talking about their sons. And one of the guys said his son has an alter ego. It was a very powerful name. He goes around referring to himself as Gary Python.
That's awesome.
Anyway, he speaks about Gary Python, who is also him in the third person, which makes it even
No
just a
way.
little bit more powerful.
I've got a mate whose son calls himself Finn, the strongest boy in the world. I love that.
Yeah, but Gary Python says I'm the strongest man in the world without actually saying I'm the strongest man
Yeah, he
in
doesn't
the
need
world.
to.
A bit like Donald Tusk. All right, bad luck, Donald Tusk. You lose. Ethereum sentiment flips bullish after 41% price rise. We've been through this a bunch of times. Ethereum now sees 3 bullish posts, not least because you've been calling the Pectra upgrade the best thing that's ever happened.
Yeah. There's only been 3 actual posts. 2 of them are mine.
2 of them are yours.
So, yeah.
But 41% price rise, reviving retail enthusiasm. I don't know exactly who's buying. I guess someone's
Enthusiasts.
enthusiastic because it's been pumping.
Yeah, I mean, not much to say on this one. We discussed a lot of it. Ethereum number goes up. There's a lot of people in the Ethereum camp who are sort of waiting for this kind of thing to happen. Ethereum just ate shit for about 2 years. And so it was time for it to, do something. And it did. It's doing something. It's still nowhere near its all-time highs. So I think there's no, we're not ready for the victory laps yet. But hopefully soon.
Okay. How far off all-time highs are we?
Still like $1,300, $1,400 maybe US.
Mhm.
I think we hit like 4,000, or maybe more. Maybe it's 4,500 we got to. Yeah, it could be between 15 to 200, 1,500 to 2,000.
So as a percentage, we still got actually a while to go.
A long way, yeah.
Wait and see, I guess. Okay, next article. So Forex
2008.
Complex has talked about the de-dollarization trend in Asia. So actually, funnily enough, I made a post about this on LinkedIn. I'm sure the 40 people out there who saw it were super pumped about it, but it was a really interesting section from the guys over at Vicara Capital. So those guys who don't know, good friends of ours, and they really, they do a lot of altcoin stuff, and they're really deep in the weeds on it. But they're also good macro guys. And one of the things they were pointing out was that Bassett came out and said they think in the near term we'll see around about $2 trillion worth of, I guess, stable coins in circulation, which, put in context, which is this is the bit that made me pause, was going, well, that's 8x roughly the 250 billion market cap we have now. You'd have to think that's a lot, that's a lot of new participants and capital flowing into the market. And I guess also buyers of US treasuries. So the US, I wonder how much this has to tie into it. So, so Forex Complex is talking about Singapore, India, Japan, Indonesia are forming a local currency pact.
Yeah.
But if you're the US and you're thinking, hey, we still want people to buy our treasuries, and 2 trillion or 1.5 trillion, well more than that, so 1.75 trillion from here could come in through the form of these crypto businesses to issue stablecoins. That starts becoming a pretty important buyer of US treasuries. And of course, in Asia, a lot of people that we know this because we see it routinely, a lot of business trade flows are now flowing through crypto in US dollar stablecoins. So I'm just looking at this article thinking, they talk about moving away from the USD, but we're seeing, well, where are they moving to for starters, but also how much of that's actually moving to US dollar stablecoins, which is also USD.
I mean, this article is specifically talking about these countries trying to de-risk, and it was sort of a overall view. While this one talks about Asia, they didn't just sort of sample Asian countries, so it just happens that all the Asian countries are at the top, the guys who are most aggressively moving away from using US dollars specifically. And they are sort of, they are talking about moving towards local currency stuff. So I think like, was it Thailand or Indonesia and Japan or something, 15% of their non-US direct remittances are now in non-US dollar terms.
What terms are they moving to though?
They're using their local currency. So I think Indonesia is using the Japanese. I can't remember, but they're using their own, like they pick one of them basically. And these are the trade terms they come up with. They're like, look, let's stop using USD specifically, and let's try using our own currency and see how it goes. I think what's also interesting about this is that there was like a group of them who decided to start working on this back in 2023. So it's not something that's just come about with Trump. It's they were thinking about this before Trump happened.
Right.
They decided, you know what, we're too reliant on the US dollar. And it's kind of like it's been prescient because the US dollar is now in a bit of trouble with all this stuff that Trump's doing. He's causing, chaos in the markets. So people don't really want to be exposed to the downside.
Do you think this kind of leads to, Bitcoin and Bitcoin using gaining traction, potentially Bitcoin or other crypto? But if stable coins are gaining traction, will it be US dollar stable coins or stable coins issued in rupiah or yen or something else? Yeah,
there was an article I'm not sure if we talked about it last week, but it was in the market update about how I think it was Singapore and Malaysia have got an agreement going where they're using some blockchain technology to do some kind of inter-country trade. And I think, it's a good question. The US dollar stablecoin is obviously the most easy one to do. But if you're sort of at the country level, you probably want a bit more control and using some decentralized currency that is owned by a company like Tether or Circle or whatever. So possibly you invent your own. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how it works out, but I'm not sure.
Okay. I guess it's probably just one of these things we have to kind of be fascinated to watch unfold.
See how much traction it gains.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be using Bitcoin though. I mean, that seems less likely.
A bit too...
It's too volatile.
Too volatile and a bit slow.
10 minutes.
Well, for the volume you're looking to do, like, I don't know.
Still faster than Swift or whatever.
Still faster than Swift. I guess the volatility is probably more the issue, and would like to see, actually take that all back, because would love to see some more tractions going through the mempool.
Yeah, that's right. There's heaps of space. Come on.
It's, this is the big question, multi-billion, maybe potentially $1 trillion question, where, the question that's always been posed of Bitcoin's longevity has been this question around, I guess, the security budget and how much, because you need the miners to be incentivized. Yeah. Ideally, you've always had the block reward and the Bitcoin price continues to go up, but ideally you'd love to see those blocks really full so the miners, there's more incentive to contribute to mine that. With all the flows going into reserves and going into ETFs and going to people's cloud storage, that's less Bitcoin to be transacted with.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, this is a completely another topic that I love to go into sometime. But
what about now?
We should have a session one time. That's probably not a bad idea. Like we could have a little segment here where we sort of talk about something unrelated, maybe like a conceptual rather than what's in the news.
Yeah.
But the security budget is a problem. Not now because the block reward's still pretty decent. But as time goes by, it becomes more and more apparent that, we have to start living off fees. And right now there's no fees getting paid because the blocks are half empty half the time. I mean, it's always, I haven't looked at it today, but yesterday when you come off a weekend, there was half empty blocks as far as the eye could see. And we have to do something to spur a bit more activity on the chain, I guess. What can we do? Lots of different options.
Well, there has been some things, I guess. There was there were those changes, which meant like things like the ordinals and inscriptions and all these and all these things that went on for a while. And you definitely do see that when these new innovations came out, there was a flurry of activity and trade, but then they kind of peter out a little bit.
Yeah.
So we need a bit more on-chain activity to kind of shore up that budget. All right, we'll move along, and then we can actually talk about some crypto. What was the word you used before? We'll talk about some things that run parallel to crypto, like powerful names, like Gary Python and Donald Tusk, and
like conceptual ideas.
Conceptual ideas that have nothing to do with crypto. Anyway, we'll come back to that. So Thailand to launch crypto-linked credit cards for tourists and locals in an attempt to spur on some, I guess, activity with some dwindling numbers in the tourist market. So these are not new. In fact, there's a number of people, I think Visa and MasterCard and a bunch of established names already allow you to use your crypto to spend at pretty much any venue because they settle the vendor in, local fiat currency, which is not too dissimilar to what we see in any kind of like cross-border payment really. But in this case here, Thailand is first of all, who in Thailand? Thailand is introducing crypto-based credit cards with local currency settlement. The government will merge digital asset and security laws, modernising finance and fund transfers. I guess all up in an attempt to go, hey, it's never been easier and
so I think
better to travel to Thailand.
It's not about a new technology they're trying to invent, as you say. The concept of a crypto credit card's existed for years now. But I think what they're trying to do is just make it easier for the payment gateway service, like the credit card issuer, to do it specifically for tourists. So right now, if you go to another country, just try and, like, as a tourist, try and get a credit card. You can't. They're not going to give you a credit card because you're just going to leave in a couple of weeks. But they're trying to make it easier. So, and I guess this is less of a credit card and more of a debit card. You would load your crypto onto it. They would have some kind of, the legislation that would allow you as a tourist to easily sign up. You'd put your name and your local address down and where you're staying and your home address probably, and then that'd be enough for them to KYC you and allow you to deposit crypto. And there's no credit involved. So you'd be depositing it, so the risk is pretty low.
It's kind of funny though, but like for example, if you go, I haven't been to Thailand since like 2002 or something, but when I was there, you got out lots of local cash or whatever, and you go to the street vendors and eat the local food or whatever, and you obviously they don't have credit card facilities, but I guess nowadays they all have smartphones. I mean, what's to stop you with just transferring 100%. USD directly to someone's MetaMask? Yeah, particularly for a street vendor.
Yeah, exactly. So true.
So maybe all the street vendors just need to get themselves a MetaMask and.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and even, Square or whatever, make it super easy just to use your phone as a point of sale device. Yeah. There's so many options now. And as you say, everyone's got a phone, everyone's got internet. And Thailand have been pretty forward about this stuff. So there's like a crypto town or whatever, it's like a village, and it's just small. And there's something like 80 merchants there that'll take Bitcoin as payment. And they're just trying these things. And there was like a trial in Phuket. Where did I write my little notes about this one? Further up. Phuket program will allow foreign tourists to register crypto through a Thai exchange. So this is something I thought about a while ago. Not saying I invented it, but it's something when I went on holiday, I was like, what do? We have to get cash, travelers checks. I don't know, find like a credit, like in one of those international credit cards you can load money on or whatever, and not get stung with FX rates. And I was like, oh, hang on, this is back in 2018. I'm like, I'm kind of in crypto. Maybe can we use crypto as like money, right? I can maybe. Anyway, it falls dead when you realize at the other end, like wherever you're traveling, you have to have some kind of off ramp, and you can't just sign up to, like the credit card. You can't just sign up to some crypto exchange I was going to South Africa. You can't just sign up to a South African crypto exchange and expect to be able to withdraw money to your South African bank account, which you don't have. Like, there's all these hurdles that makes it too difficult. But they're trialing a thing in
which
Phuket,
allows you to,
which will have some kind of framework
to allow you
to literally do what I was trying to do back then.
Gotcha.
It's great. I think it'll be, it sounds like an awesome
Yeah.
idea. I would definitely use that if I was going on holiday.
Yeah, 100%. And in addition to, I guess, the typical ways, I mean, if the vendor, the street vendor, whatever, just accepts it, great, just send them Bitcoin, send them USDT, whatever. But if you don't, then you have the government's going, well, if that doesn't work, then maybe you can do these other things.
Yeah.
Well, here's another way to make it feasible for you as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't realize that Thailand's tourism industry needed revival, but apparently it does. And
Yeah, guess so. I don't know much about Thailand's tourism industry, but
yeah,
I mean, I suppose everything is decimated. Everyone's trying to recover from COVID still. Is that right?
I don't know.
Is that still
Is that still a thing?
I don't know. Probably not. I mean, everything got decimated back then. And then what's been bad in Thailand recently?
Oh, here we go. Well, according to Google, Thailand's central bank is forecasting a decline, particularly in Chinese tourists, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
I guess that's the challenge. I guess if you've seen the 30% drop is just from last year. So interesting. It could just be, I don't know. Well, there you go. Apparently Thailand's numbers have dropped, according to the Bangkok Post, but predominantly from Chinese tourists.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, global
not sure.
tensions are a thing to behold.
Yeah.
Global economic shutdown. Tourism's down across the world.
Yeah.
Tourism's down across the world. There you go.
Yeah.
I wonder why that is. I don't think that's crypto's fault.
It's probably the tariffs. So many tariffs.
Just the entire world's dealing with the cost of living pressures, I guess.
Maybe it is
Thanks
an
to some
emergency.
inflation.
Trump was right. It is an
It
emergency.
is an emergency. Well,
Created.
Yeah, that's right.
but that was my question before.
For HS.
So Trump is using all these. So the very first stuff we talked about, Trump's tariff war, and it's back on, it's back off, whatever. And he's using these emergency powers to make all these just shooting from the hip kind of policy. But he's claiming it's emergency measures, and the rest of the world is going, hey, it's not that much of an emergency. But what do you think would actually qualify then as emergency to use this stuff? Who decides what's emergency and what's not?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think that's why he's just pushed ahead with going, it's an emergency, because there's probably no very specific guidelines around what constitutes an emergency and what doesn't. And
We
that's
just
why it
say
has
it's
to
an
go to
emergency.
Exactly. It's just like, guys, I believe this is an emergency. I'm enacting these powers. And then it's up to the courts. Like, someone has to challenge it in the court, I guess, to go, you know what, this does not constitute an emergency. In the thing I was reading before, they kept harking back to the fact that no other president had ever done something like this before. And in my head, I'm like, well, that's not a great reason why not to do something, just because no one's done it before. But the fact that they keep talking about it says to me that, there is no rule. They can't point at a rule and go, this says you can't do it. They have to just go, look, it's never been done before. It doesn't seem like an emergency. We don't think it's really an emergency.
Well, the same thing happened with the Department of Government Efficiency. And the reason the Democrats obviously hated it because it was a political thing with Musk and yada, yada. But the actual law or loophole, whatever you want to call it, I'm not sure that the minutiae, there was a government statutory body or something that was actually established by Obama, which was there kind of used, and Trump just went, oh, well, there's this vehicle that Obama created. I'm just going to use the same thing with the laws you guys created to then go and do this other thing that I'm allowed to do, which is the government efficiency. That's why it's not an official government department and all this kind of stuff. But it was just a government vehicle or a government, I don't know what you call it. Google will know. Google that and you can look at it. But the point is, and that's why the Democrats were mad, they're like, this is not legal. Hang on, it was a law we created. Oh, okay, guess it is a thing. But same type of thing. I guess he's just finding these loopholes and going, well, let's just test them.
And he pushes it so hard and fast that he gets away with so much before anyone's like, hey, wait, stop.
That's not what it was supposed to be.
Wait, hang on. No, that's not legal. And meanwhile, he's already finished, so it doesn't matter.
Well, I guess we'll see how that pans out because it seems like, I mean, the thing is he's moving at breakneck pace and the rest of government is still just like, hang on, there's these things we've got to worry about. It's like, okay, we'll do it. And then that's got to go through the courts and that takes time. And by which time, as you said, he's already done. Yeah. He's already moved 6 months ahead of them.
Yeah, it's a good strategy for him. It could blow up in everyone else's faces and he's already sailed off into the sunset.
Yeah.
His 4-year term is gone. And
Just announcement fatigue.
Yeah.
Announcement fatigue.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about this before.
Another strategy.
Even for Bitcoin hit an all-time high last week. It didn't even make any... I didn't even see it in the Australian press. Like, I don't even think I saw it because everything's like Trump, trade war, Trump. It's like, it's actually really difficult just to compete for headlines when you've got this guy who's just out there just making a headline every day. big headlines, you know,
Yeah.
causing outrage and causing controversy. A little bit like you, I guess.
Yeah. They call me a shock jock.
Yeah. All right. So we've been running now for 40 minutes. What else have we got to go through, Nick? I'm sure we've got some big issues that we've not covered off on.
No, I think
That's pretty much it.
we've hit all the points, I think. Yeah.
We have hit all the points.
No, this week has been, I don't know, there's a lot of, doom and gloom, as there always is. It's just natural in the world. But in terms of Bitcoin stuff, it's been so bullish. These nation states coming, obviously they're talking at that the Bitcoin conference that's happening at the moment. And so obviously everything coming out of there is pretty bullish. So no one's going to announce something bad there. But like Pakistan is doing this stuff. All these companies are forming these treasuries, the Bitcoin. It's just going from strength to strength. I'm so bullish at the moment. And the price is not necessarily reflecting it. I mean, we're, down, I don't know, a few percent from our all-time highs, but we're sort of still hovering well above 100K. I think we're at 106 last time I saw. Far out. It's good stuff.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And like I said, even the US Treasury itself is forecasting. Oh, Bassett, is he the Treasury guy?
Besant. I don't know. He's some crypto guy.
Besant guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, government officials have been, if we're going to $2 trillion worth of stablecoin, they're not just having the stablecoins to just sit there and not use them. So much of that's going to flow into the industry generally and find its way into things like Bitcoin and altcoins and other kind of stuff. I don't think we've seen really just a broad-based sort of altcoin rally or whatnot just yet. But there's a lot of market infrastructure, a lot of businesses that is going to need to develop and gain a lot of traction just in the real world, businesses and jobs, employment, innovation that's going to have to take place to facilitate that level of, adoption. Yep. So fascinating times for sure. All right, well, let's jump into the outro then. AI has written a lovely outro. I haven't read it yet.
I wrote it.
We're using AI.
No, I wrote it myself.
Oh, did you? Sorry. I take it back. Jared wrote this outro. No. Okay.
The M dashes as well.
Oh, the M dashes.
Yeah.
I think the key point here was, thank you, Jared. There's nothing would happen if Jared didn't do it. So we should definitely give you lots of credit, Jared. Even though you're behind the screen, quietly doing all the hard work. The Moonshot Dispatch again. Thanks for watching. So we're on X, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. Be sure to give them a follow, give us a like, throw some comments. The algorithm will pick us up and hopefully we can get the word out there a little bit longer of everything we're doing. Nick, I'm not Nick. I'm Lee. This is Nick. We'll be back same time next week. Thank you very much.